Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's happening, guys? Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Pennsylvanian newcore quartet Tallah. The band's new album, Matriphagy, will be released on October 2nd via Earache Records.
They're from where?
Pennsylvania.
We have now established in our long litany of recordings that Duncan has no ear for where bands are from. I would have put money on them being... I thought they were British.
Oh, really?
There's a song that starts with fucking grindcore rapping. There's no grindcore in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yes, there is.
On this album, Duncan.
Here's some information about Tallah. These guys, they're fairly new to the metal scene.
I see what you did there. They're fairly new to the metal scene.
They were. There's more where that came from, Duncan.
Oh dear.
They were put together by Max Portnoy, son of Mike Portnoy.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was forming the band, he reached out to a YouTuber named Justin Bonitz. I think that's how you pronounce his surname. He was known for doing a lot of kind of vocal covers on YouTube. He also made his own like kind of concept albums, stuff like that. Max and the rest of the band had already had like an EP's worth of music when they asked Justin to join the band. And he then came up with this idea of a concept album.
Mm-hmm.
But they only had 5 songs, so they decided to cut the concept in half for that EP. With their debut full length, Matriphagy, they're giving us the full concept.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd heard most of these songs before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they've released about 4 singles, maybe more.
Yeah, so I came across Tallah last year. I want to say I sent you a song last June from Tallah saying, have you heard this? Because I think it might have been Kungan, which like melted my fucking brain the first time I heard it. It tickled every new metal itch that I had in my body in a way that made me immensely satisfied. And then they disappeared off my fucking radar until you were like, oh, by the way, the Tallah album's in. And I was like, excuse me? Album you say, Dave? In for review you say, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
So I got very excited.
Yes. Well, the concept for Matriphagy is about how an overprotective mother pushes her son to the edge of insanity through psychological and physical abuse. Having spent 2 decades trapped inside a glorified prison, and after some failed rescue escape attempts, the son, in a state of heavy delirium, does the unforgivable to free himself from his mother's wicked hold.
Eats her. That's unforgivable, Dave. Cannibalism's right up there.
It's pretty much, yeah. So let's
listens to Nickelback. I mean, I'm just thinking of the worst crimes you could do. His favourite TV show is The Jersey Shore.
So let's
finish his sentence with the words totes.
Oh my god. Let's address the drop chain baggy jeaned red cap wearing elephant in the room, Duncan.
Oh, you fit a lot in there, I love it. And don't pretend that you didn't wear a drop chain, baggy jeans, and maybe on occasion a backwards cap. Maybe not a red one, but a backwards cap.
I didn't go full red, but everything else, ticked those boxes.
I've got the pictures, Dave. You didn't rock the fishnet top like myself, but
no, I didn't.
You didn't have the flabby physique for it, Dave, that I did. When you wear a fishnet top, you really want to make sure that it's like a horrible fucking Play-Doh scene. It's like a Play-Doh fat factory as the fat starts to protrude from the fishnet. That was all me, baby.
Oh, the images, the memories. Oh. This is a new metal album.
Yeah. New metal's back, Dave.
Yes, it is. To be fair, like this band are very upfront about their style and their influences. There are clear similarities between Tallah and bands like Slipknot and Korn, and even a bit of Twisted Method in there. I could hear that a bit as well.
Yep.
But there are some kind of newer sounds in there as well. There are little bits of like Code Orange, and even kind of like King 810 at times as well.
Yeah.
So while it's nothing new, we're getting like genre-wise, Tallah, they have put a bit of a fresh spin on things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally think so. I think this to me sounds like what a new metal album should sound like in 2020.
Yeah. I think if you grew up listening to new metal, if you're a new metal OG,
which we are, Dave. Sorry to say,
which we are, then I think you'll find Matriphagy an enjoyable, nostalgic ride back to like late 90s, early 2000s. I think they've managed to capture that kind of like raw energy that you got from like Slipknot's debut and $3 Bills or Life is Peachy, and it's no coincidence that all of those albums mentioned were produced by Ross Robinson.
This is true,
because this album does have a hint of that.
It really does. The production is like circa 96 Ross Robinson. It really is. If you told me this had been recorded at Indigo Ranch, I would not have spat in your face.
Yeah, definitely. It's not overproduced. It still has some of that kind of a bit of a rough edge to it. But I think that's been done on purpose, to give it that kind of tone of albums from that time period. And I think that production kind of coupled with their almost like kind of manic approach, it does work, you know what I mean, as it's worked in the past. I was listening to tracks like Placenta. I did feel like this could be something that was released like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It has all the traits you'd expect of a track released back then. And sometimes they may tread close to the source material. Kungan being one of those times where like the rhythms and riffs are a little similar to
Slipknot.
Like Surfacing by Slipknot. Or even like some of the lead work on We the Sad. It could be from multiple Korn albums.
Oh yes.
But along with that, there are moments of like that kind of freshness that I mentioned. Tracks like Murder Seed, see that kind of hears them go a bit heavier, kind of riff wise, and give off a more of a kind of Code Orange vibe. But the chorus still has those kind of new metal hooks. And I think choruses are something that Tallah do very well.
Yes.
Partly down to the kind of varied kind of vocal delivery of Justin Bonitz. He does a very good job of switching from that like almost kind of agitated, twisted kind of vocal style into some really kind of well placed and catchy, clean melodies. And for me, he was one of the highlights of the album. For me, he's got a very vast selection of vocal tools. And if you listen to tracks like Too Quick to Grieve or even Red Light, you'll hear what I mean. He goes from like aggressive rap to low growls to tonal screams to psychotic breakdown to like big clean melodies, and he does it, you know, very seamlessly. I thoroughly enjoyed this. My highlight was probably Overconfidence.
Oh yeah, it's a great song.
really good track. Had a lot of the new metal traits that you'd expect, but had a real kind of darkness to it as well. A lot of kind of dark tones in the background of the track that gave it a bit more of an ominous feel, especially in the chorus. It's got that kind of clangy kind of bass tone in the quieter parts, but then the heavier parts, like midway and at the end of the track, were some of the heaviest on the album. As I said, very nostalgic for me. Like it took me right back to that time period, so I did enjoy it from that side of things. What about yourself? What did you make of this?
Yeah, so like I say, I'd already heard quite a few songs from the previous release. So I knew exactly what I was getting here. That was one of the reasons I was kind of excited to check it out. And There's a little bit in here of like Past Out of Existence by Chimera. Specifically vocally, I think sometimes when he lets loose with that really kind of abrasive, screamy, kind of more mid to higher range, that it totally reminds me of kind of early Mark Hunter. There's just something about it that grabs my attention, brings me in. Yeah, Tallah have written an album for me. Essentially, that is what has happened. They've done it the right way. Like, new metal as a genre became a bit of a pastiche of itself. It became a bit derivative. I say a bit. It became wholly derivative. And it's... Oh, you only have to look at the landscape now. The bands that succeeded and are still on the go from that genre are the ones who kind of distance themselves from that genre, or unabashedly steered into a sound that they create because they were around at the start. All the ones that came on afterwards have either disappeared very, very quickly or sound fuck all like they did when they started. And Tallah, to me, approach their songwriting, their sound specifically, on the earlier edge before we had like the immaculate poppy sounding new metal that was like 2001 onwards. They've captured that kind of mid to late 90s rawness, which I think just aids everything they do. I love the riffs on this album. Yes, they sound like a plethora of other bands could have written said riffs, but it's just great to hear them here. The reason it's great is because they're interesting. You know what I mean? They'll play like this really bouncy riff, and then they'll start going into weird kind of tones as the singer starts moving in, and then, you know, they'll give you that big kind of stomping sort of headbang moment, and then go back into doing and it switches around. The drum work is brilliant as well. Once again, nothing hugely remarkable because it can't be because of what the guitars are doing, but there's moments there's a blast beat or two on this album which kind of shocked me a little bit. Vocally, you're right, this is where this album completely shines. This is what you need, and the best new metal bands are not known for the guitarists that played in them, unless they painted themselves in face paint, Dave. You know what I mean? They're not known necessarily for the drummers that put those big fat beats in the back. They're mostly known for the vocalists. I'd argue you could probably name more new metal vocalists than you can other musicians in their bands. And there is a reason behind that. They became... And that's not like other genres of metal. You know what I mean? You tend to find you remember the drummers a lot better in death metal bands, or the guitarists, than you do necessarily the vocalists. And I wonder why that is. Because they're the ones that are doing the really dexterous sort of stuff. New metal, it was all pinned on what the singer was doing, and they've got the perfect vocalist here. His range is brilliant. His choice of kind of staccatic delivery into, like you said before, manic. There are times here that the guy sounds like he's losing his shit completely. Yeah. And then out of nowhere, he just hits you with this clean vocal, and it works. And I don't necessarily think he's an incredible singer, you know, in terms of his clean vocal sound. But his choice of melodies are brilliant, and they're catchy, and they hook in, and they make me want to listen to the track again. And when you bring this all together, this is total throwback. This is total throwback to an era we don't have anymore, which we probably shouldn't have anymore, to be fair. But it works really well for me. Kungan, I played to death. So, like I say, and that's one that does kind of tick a lot of the boxes of what you're going to get in this album. But I'm way Overconfidence is fucking brilliant. Really love the Silo, We the Sad. You know, there's plenty in here to give you what you want. And that, like, the kind of opening track, not the intro track, but the opening track, no one should read this, has one of the most unabashed new metal riffs ever in a 2020 album. It's like they knew that there were people out there that maybe wanted a little bit of a nostalgic wink and nod back to an older time and just fit the brief. And it doesn't feel, the thing about it is, it doesn't feel compromised in any way, and I kind of like that about it. Even if they are a band that wants to sound like, when we started writing music in our band to begin with, we sounded like Slipknot, Why did we sound like Slipknot? Because Slipknot were the biggest fucking band on the planet, and we all love Slipknot. So it's they have those elements in here, and I kind of like the fact that they've just steered right into them. You know, they've not kind of went the other way and tried to pass themselves off as something they're not, and they don't appear to be even remotely concerned about what the varnish of the word new metal on a band would have in 2020. I like that. I think that has a big old fucking swinging set of sweaty balls to it that I can kind of get behind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I, if you hadn't guessed, Dave, I really like this.
Yep, you and me both. Overall, it might not be the most cutting edge thing, but I think they do this so well. It's hard to criticize it. And I think that Tallah appeal to a fairly sizable portion of metal fans. You'll get the guys like us that like it for nostalgic reasons, but I think they'll also pull in your fans that are digging what the likes of Code Orange are doing as well. So I hope this album does well for them. For me, well, let's talk ratings. Let's get into ratings for this album. For me, it's maybe not groundbreaking, but when you take in everything else, you know, the production, the nostalgic kind of factor as well, and I said there is a kind of freshness to it with a little elements that are coming in, you know, 2020 style from the likes of Code Orange and King 810. For me, I'd give this a good 4 out of 5.
I'm 100% with you. This is a 4-star album if ever there was one.
Nice, yep. I think that's a fair score for this album. And I think I can see myself going back to it as well. You know, if I just want to stick on something just with some really good riffs on it and a really good groove to it, I can absolutely see myself going back and playing this throughout the year.
I want to hear, like, to me, the exciting thing is what they do in the follow-up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, now they've been working on this and this one's been gestating for so long. Now that this is out, finally, they've got their concept albums out there. It's behind them now. What does the next album sound like? I'm so excited. Not that I want this album to disappear quickly in favour of a new one, but there's a lot of promise here. There's a lot of promise, and I hope they don't. I hope they don't compromise that sound, because I think there's a place for that. Even now, there's a place for bands that sound like this. So
yeah, I'd agree. Check this one out when it drops, guys. It's coming out on October 2nd. The band are Tallah. The album is called Matriphagy. If you want to check them out online, you can find them at facebook.com/TallahPA. I'll put links in the description below. That's all from us. Hope you enjoyed the review. Let us know what you think of the album when it drops. Put some comments in below. And we'll be back with a new review very soon. But until then, take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.